My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. What is up, everybody? It's episode 101. You know, I didn't even think when I did yesterday's episode that it was the 100th episode. And listen, this has been a great ride. And this is only the 100th episode of the podcast. You know, I did the video cast for the longest. That was it was simulcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm thinking eventually, if I get stuff set up right, on the road, and which I'm on the road now in my RV, but when I'm on the road and back at home, I'm thinking about recording these as a video as well and putting that out. And I don't know if it's going to make a difference or not. Anything I can do to get the word out for this show, because today's news, what we see today is a perfect example of why podcasts like this, there's a few others out there. I'm not going to promote their podcasts, of course, but there's a few others out there. But it's important because some of these podcasts are the only place where you're going to get real analysis. They don't use any of us on the news anymore, all the people that used to do the analysis. The majority of, I would have to say almost 100% of the people that analyze on the news are skewed to the left or the right. They're not looking at truth. And it's a shtick for them. Or they're just young, and they use, Fox News loves to do that, use young people, and like Richard Fowler. Richard Fowler, the first time I saw that guy, he's a liberal guy, if you've seen Richard Fowler on there. He's the liberal opponent on there. And he's got his own radio show, which kills me. First time I ever saw him was in the green room on Fox Business. I don't remember what show it was for, but he was sitting there, and I watched him take pictures of people in the green room covertly. Like he was reading his phone, but he's really taking pictures of people. It was very weird. But he's got no experience. Look him up. There's no experience there. He's just an opinion. And he's a young opinion, and he's black, and so they're going to use him. That's it. And listen, that's not a racial statement. I hate the fact that I even have to defend this stuff. If you have no experience, it doesn't matter. But what we're seeing now in media is that they are... It's exactly what we fought against for the longest time, to get to a point where people, what their education, their insight, their character and ethics and morals, that's what mattered. We could look at them and say, what does this person have to say? But that is not the case now. They are hiring people. They're not even going out and trying to find people who are educated and ethically great and have done amazing things that are black. And remember, I don't see color. I think judging somebody off the color of their skin, whether they are somebody who is applying for a job, or you're trying to find somebody who knows what they're talking about, it's the dumbest thing to add in there. Unless it's a description of somebody who's done something wrong, or somebody who's in an emergency situation. You know, there's a 5'4" Caucasian female that's stuck on a cliff, or a 6'3" black male who has broken his leg and is down by the water and could drown. You know, those are descriptions. Doesn't always have to be criminal stuff. Although it could be. There is let's see, we got a good one. 5'6" Caucasian female with sandy blonde hair and braids that is burning a federal building in Portland. See, you can use those things, but that's about as far. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to say she's obviously has an IQ of this because she's got white skin, or he has an IQ of that because he has black skin. It doesn't matter. I don't know if you can hear, but it's raining now. But see, that's how stupid this is. And so the media is putting people, they're giving people positions now because of the color of their skin, not because they even have anything. The majority of people in media that they're picking don't even have anything to offer in the line of experience. They're just simply young and black, or young and white female, or whatever it is. And they're skewed one way or the other. Can you hear that? Man, it's really coming down out there. I'm somewhere in the middle of Oklahoma, by the way, right now, sitting in my RV. And I stopped to do this. And I was going to do this later on, but I wanted to stop right now and put this out because I'm seeing the most ridiculous stuff online about the president. And so I figured this would be a good opportunity to put some stuff out about what I'm seeing. And listen, my shows when I'm on the road are a little shorter. There's no doubt about it, because it's just more comfortable to do at home. But hopefully I'll get some good interviews. I would love to make this RV into like the Joe Rogan studio on wheels. That would be great. Although it's not a big RV. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not huge. I don't know how. I could only have one other person in here probably and talk. But I'm seeing this stuff that came out, and I didn't even see it at first. I wasn't going to record until later, and people started calling me and texting me and saying, "Did you see what Trump said? He gave an interview to Bob Woodward back in March, and he said that he was downplaying the COVID virus." First of all, here's my criticism to the president. Fire whoever told you it was a good idea to go and give an interview to Bob Woodward. Why? Why do people do things like this? There's nothing to gain from doing an interview with Bob Woodward. Nothing. That's my only criticism. Because I listened to what he had to say, and I'm going to play it right here because I'll play the soundbite that they have on this website anyway. But it sounds to me the same language that I would use in talking about how you deal with a crisis. You know, having been in the FBI and worked with crisis management, the first thing, and also in law enforcement in general, when I was a cop and in the air marshals and stuff, the thing that you do when it comes to, in fact, the first thing I ever did real world in the SEAL teams was we did a search and rescue off the coast of Panama for a 10th Mountain Division soldier who would, we didn't know if he drowned yet at that point. There were some waves that came in on these cliffs where they were out there. They were not working officially. They were out there, going swimming in the ocean. One guy got swept away by the waves, and it's typical. The other guy who jumped in after him is the one that never came back up. He ended up passing away, and he died, drowned. The other guy came out, but we were doing a search and rescue for this guy, and that was the first real-world thing I did in the SEAL teams. And the thing is, when it comes to search and rescue, when it comes to crisis management, I ran the special events for the FBI. It sounds like, I planned parties for the FBI in New York City, but that wasn't it. I did all the threat assessments, operations orders, and was an on-scene liaison to all the different agencies wherever a major event or incident was happening. The thing with a crisis is that you don't rush into it and you don't overblow it. You have to pause. That is the very first thing that you do is you pause. Whenever something is occurring, you don't go out screaming like you're on fire, like that idiot, and I think it was in Portland where he dropped the Molotov cocktail, caught his feet on fire. You don't go running like that. When there's a crisis, the first thing you do is pause and you assess the situation. And if it has to do with, someone, a group of people other than you, I'm not saying that you keep what's happening from them, but you have to, listen, the president's dealing with over 300 million people in this country. If he goes out saying, this is the most dangerous virus, I can't even do a Trump impersonation, I won't even try, but you're not going to go out and yell that this is deadly, it's going to kill everybody, it's crazy, China's talking about, you don't go out and do that. You have to throttle it back. Now, the reality is it wouldn't have mattered if the president completely lied and said, this is nothing, it's no more than a cold. Everybody, the people that died from March to May predominantly were elderly in clinics where, and I say this all the time, where Cuomo and these other Democrat governors flooded, we're finding more about this now. They flooded these elderly clinics with COVID positive patients, killing massive amounts. We don't even know the amount of people that were killed. We do know it was well over 60,000 people that died because of those policies, executive orders put forward by Democrat governors. So it wouldn't really matter to what the president said, but the fact is that he didn't overblow it. Imagine if he had overblown it. The panic and the chaos and the potential threat from other countries. See, that's the thing you also have to worry about. When we're in crisis, other countries see that, they'll come after us. It's not all roses and happy times in the world. You may think, because we're the great America, that we don't have threats from foreign invasion, but we do. We were and still are very weak. The president's done amazing things at re-strengthening our military, but here's the problem. It's the headshed of the military. The president gets it absolutely right when he talks about the generals and the admirals. Not all of them. Not all of them. I've talked to some generals and admirals who are great people and who understand the gravity of the situation. But I also know and have heard from people who know these other generals, these leftist generals, and I've dealt with one of them before. And it's horrific. They don't care about anybody. They are narcissistic. They are leftist, and they're just bad people. The way they got into the position that they were in or are at the top of the DOD is not because they're great warfighters. It's because they're cutthroat politicians, and they bow to the left. So when the president said what he did, let's play this real quick, and you're going to hear what he said to Bob Woodward. Again, the one criticism I have is not that he throttled it back and made it sound like we can control this. It's not that he or anything that he did, really. It's not anything he said. Don't give Bob Woodward and these leftists, don't give them the room to twist these things. Mr. President, we look at you. Everybody that's going to vote for you is already going to vote for you. There are some liberals that are flipping, but it's really, I'm going to be honest with you. It's not because of the president. It's not because of walk away, whatever that nonsense is. It's not because of what we do. It's because of what the left does. If anything that could help and assure a blowout by the president would be that he pays for leftists to go out and watch, not leftists, but Democrats to go out and see the reality. Pay for buses so that people can go down and watch how Black Lives Matter act. Watch how these leftists act. Look at what they're destroying. That is, I've seen it personally. That's the greatest thing ever that's going to get people to vote for this president who's done a pretty spectacular job. Before COVID came this year, we were skyrocketing all over the place. But COVID and the way it's been handled by the local politicians and by the globalists around the world has been the destruction. That is the destructive force. It's so bad when I go and I'm on the road and I stop at a gas station, I see people with masks on pumping gas and there's nobody else there. I see people driving down the freeway with gloves, with rubber gloves and masks on. There's nobody in their car except for them. They've been convinced that it's this bad. And I'm telling you, folks, in March, I gave a lot of grief to a lot of people who call themselves conservatives because we didn't know the reality then. We didn't know the reality then. And people were I understand the president doing it, but the president downplaying it so that he calms the fears while they work it out is different than people going on social media like Candace Owens and these other people and saying just outright, it's nothing. You should never. That's the opposite of what you should do. Pause, assess the situation. Don't cause a panic if you're the manager of the situation, and then work it out. You don't just go on because you don't like what the left has to say and then throw out there that, it's nothing. It's a lie. If you don't know it's a lie, don't say it's a lie. If it turns out to be a lie, fine. But in March, there was nothing. We did what we had to do. I think it was a great experiment in the country coming together to solve a problem. I really do think the people, I'm not talking about the leftist politicians, the people coming together and quarantining and staying put. I would say March and April. I think the American people did really good. They should be very proud of themselves. But then it slowly started to dawn on everybody that it is just not what they say it is. It's not what they say it is now. And I think the way that we've all adjusted mentally to this is perfect. We've grown. We've realized it's not. But back in March, when people were saying that it's nothing, and they don't know. The president knows a tremendous amount. His decisions to say it's not as much as you think make sense to me. But people who don't know it, they're not doctors. They're social media, quote unquote, influencers. It's really raining out here. I don't know if you can hear it. But let's play what the president says. And you're going to see this has a lot to do with nothing. And also, it's Bob Woodward and Cena. I just talked about this in the last episode. Didn't even know that this was coming out. But these people on the left, it's the same people every time. It's been the same people for literally 40 years. And everything that they say in the news about this president it's not like they just, let's have this guy up here to analyze it. What do you think? And boom, he analyzes it. It's not like that anymore. Hasn't been like that since 2016. And the reality is, before that, they still handled experts when we came up there to do our analysis. You wouldn't be back if you said something that, that they didn't like, or if they didn't think you were going to get good ratings. Now, it's everybody comes up there. It's not like they just call them and say, hey, can you come and analyze this? It's scripted. The whole thing. They are going to present an image just like a reality TV show. I had some friends that were on reality TV shows. I'm not going to say which one. They were telling me about, and this is more than one, okay, on the Discovery Channel, saying that over 50% of everything you see in these shows is not real. They'll take something happen like a tree fell in the woods, and then they'll build a whole, yes, it's true, the tree fell, but it didn't really affect anybody, but they're going to create a story around that tree to make it seem like it was a big deal. That's what the media is now. All right, let's listen to the president. If we can get it to play. Come on. Okay, it's loading. While it's loading, what you're going to hear here is Bob Woodward, first of all, is one of the dumbest sounding human beings I've ever heard of. He sounds like one of the Muppets back from the Muppet Show. And he just sounds like he's going to fall over any second. Okay, here we go.
So what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the...
He sounds stupid. Stupid. I'm going to play that again just so I can hear how stupid he sounds. Okay, here you go.
And so what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape, but, it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know. It's
pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per... this is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
Now, at that point, that's the information he had coming out of China. Again, it was China. And he didn't know, and we didn't know exactly what the reality was with the death rate. He said at this point the death rate is 5%, but it ended up not being. It's not, the death rate is not 5%. And also, when they put these elderly people into these COVID patients into these elderly clinics, the death rate skyrocketed. But as you can see now, the infection rate has skyrocketed, but nobody's dying from it. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There are people dying from it, but not at the rate that they said. Not at 5%. It's below 1%, and it's not what they're making it out to be. Not with all these closures that are still going on. I mean, the country has been opened up. I'm driving all over the country. There are people out and about. There are people doing things, and they don't even care anymore. and they're not wearing masks. I'm seeing it. And the death rate is not there. They're getting it. The infection rate is there. People are getting it. But they're just not dying from it like they were. Because elderly people, especially those who have pre-existing conditions that are related to a weakened immune system or something in them that affects with this COVID, it attacks them and it does kill them very quickly. Some younger people, but very few. No, I'm not a doctor. Of course, you know that. But I am looking at the statistics. I'm looking at the charts. I'm overlaying the charts. It's not there. So, but here's the bottom line. This is the big thing that people need to take away from this, is that the president didn't do anything wrong. Everybody's making this out to sound like he went out of his way to lie to the American people. There's a difference between lying, like Cuomo, and quelling or reducing the panic. It's totally different. It would not have done anyone any good if the president went out and said, this is crazy, we're all going to die. No, he took it slow, and he filled people with hope. At the same time, he helped put in or push the states to have certain restrictions, and he got them what they needed as far as what they thought was best for fighting COVID when people came to the hospital, which was more hospital rooms. In New York, they built like a multi, this happened in several different places, $25 to $50 million hospital out in Long Island. They did it in certain other states as well, and nobody ever got put in there. Yet they put people in COVID homes, in elderly clinics, COVID patients in elderly clinics. But they didn't put anybody in there. They didn't put anybody on the Navy ships. They didn't put anybody in New York in the Jacob Javits Center. But yet they put the elderly COVID positive patients in the elderly clinics. The president gave them what they needed, what they thought they needed, which was intubators. It turns out all these intubators, so a lot of them were not used. It was just an excuse for people to kind of bag on the president. And these intubators, I believe, from looking at the evidence that I've seen, not as a doctor, but as a trained investigator, these intubators are what's killing everyone. Now they're putting people on their chest. I don't know if you know this, but the biggest part of your lung is in your back, not in your chest. So they're laying people on their stomachs, and they're using CPAP machines so that they can get air into their lungs, because the fluid will flow to the smallest part of their lungs, and they can actually breathe out of the back of their lungs. That's what they're finding now, and people are surviving. So the virus is there, it's real, but because people didn't know how to fight it, and because of these idiot governors, Democrat governors, who put people in COVID positive in these homes, the death rate was tremendous. It's not there now. And the way the president reacted was proper. The other thing that bothers me is, again and again, this idiot Mattis keeps a Mad Dog Mattis, okay? I'm going to make one more statement about this guy. Mad Dog Mattis is a failure. We didn't win any wars under him or any of these other generals, even the ones I like. We have not won a war since World War II, when we went from the Department of War to the Department of Defense, from the Secretary of War to the Secretary of Defense. That in of itself is a progressive leftist move. And the way we fight wars now is not to win. They fight wars to appease. So shut up, Mattis. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of your face. I mean, besides the fact, you look just like Don Knotts, who used to play Barney on the Andy Griffith Show. This is the Department of Defense and it's war. It's not Mayberry. It's not the local police department. And you've lost. You've lost all the wars that you may have won battles. Well, you didn't win. There were battles fought. But Mattis, you're a failure as a general. The DOD is a failure. The only reason why we probably have not been attacked is because of our technological strength and our sheer numbers to fight, and the willingness of the soldiers and the sailors and the airmen to go out and take that fight to people. It's certainly not because of the leadership. It's certainly not because of this doctrine that we have prescribed ourselves to go in and remove leaders and dictators and build hearts and minds. That doesn't work. Mattis is the last person that should be telling this president what to do. Shut up. Now, this is another thing I want to leave you with, okay? This is a totally frightening story. Again, if you hear something in the background, it's because it's raining. Pretty hard, actually. Amazing. So anyway, in Quebec, Canada, Quebec City says it will isolate uncooperative citizens in secret corona facility. This is very frightening. I'm reading this. There was a press conference with, let's see who the doctor is. Jacques Girard. He's the Regional Intern Director, Public Health, Quebec City, Quebec. I mean, just listen to his voice.
Ici qui demande brièvement, est-ce que des ordres...
Here he is.
Oui, l'ordonnance concernait justement deux personnes.
He sounds as much of an idiot as he looks like. I mean, arrogant. They're asking him about, I guess there were a couple of people in some restaurant. You know how people, they choose this hill to die, and they're like, I don't care about the virus. I don't want to be told what to do. Okay. Turns out that they were COVID positive, I believe is what it was. And what he's saying is they could have been quarantined at home, but if they go to the home and they're not there, or if they go to the home, they have trouble with them, they're going to put them in a facility like prison. And up to 14 days, they're going to quarantine these people. Whereas before it was 72 hours, they could hold somebody. Now, if the government in Quebec says you're going to be held because we want you to be quarantined, they're going to put you for 14 days away. Meanwhile, and he's all smiles. He just looks so arrogant, the way he's smiling about it. Now, I know we're talking about the coronavirus, and some people are still scared of it, and you know, it causes a lot of people a lot of grief. But you should be worried, extremely worried, when the government is taking you, when the evidence is not there, and they're taking people and putting them in facilities where he didn't even name the facility. It's like, yeah, we're going to put him away for 14 days. And they asked him where, and he wouldn't tell them. That's very alarming to me. It should be alarming to you, whether you're liberal or conservative. Now, I guess it's happening. It's happening in the UK as well. But here's something. This just goes along to show how crazy we've gotten, okay? There was a young boy, I don't know how young he was, and I think it was on Long Island where this happened. Let me make sure about that. William Floyd High School in Mastic. It's on Long Island. This kid wanted to be in school. He didn't want to do it online. And now the way they have it here, it's so full of jackassery. The people that are planning this from the schools, they have no clue what they're doing. They're making this stuff up as they go along. Look, let's not kid ourselves. School is mainly babysitting for parents. It came about with the Industrial Revolution. The majority of stuff that you can teach kids that they need to know can be done at home in a homeschooling environment where you teach them to read, write, do arithmetic, and learn history and some science and maybe an art. Schools prolong that, and because teachers' unions, they get paid a lot of money. And I'm not saying teachers aren't worth it, but basically it's a babysitting job where you also teach them stuff. And unfortunately, indoctrinate as far as the left goes. But this kid, so the way they have it is certain days you're going to go to school, certain days you'll do stuff online. Makes no sense whatsoever. Just make a decision, do it one way or the other. Why even force them? If the virus is so bad, why are you forcing them to go to school even 2 days? If it's that bad, why even take the risk for 1 day? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They're not honest because they act like they don't know what they're doing. Or they act like they know what they're doing, but it's obvious that they don't. This kid goes to school, and he gets suspended for attending in-person classes on a remote day. I guess it was one of his remote days, and he decided he wanted to go, so he went there. He got suspended, wait for it, and arrested. I've also heard about out in Long Island, there's a tiki bar restaurant that's been getting hassled by law enforcement, and in particular, those out in New York that handle the liquor license. And the guy does not hide that he's a conservative and he supports Trump. He says he went out of his way to spend money to hire extra people so that they could ensure that patrons followed the guidelines put out by the governor. But again and again, they kept getting harassed, and they would come out and take pictures. And I can guarantee you, I don't know this for a fact, but I can guarantee you the left probably had people come out there and purposely not wear a mask or raise a ruckus. They show up and shut him down like a SWAT team and remove his liquor license. They revoke it. Now, this is happening in multiple places. We heard about it. It happened in gyms. Gym in New Jersey, where they went out of their way. They wouldn't let so many people in the gym. They wouldn't let so many people on the machines at one, in any given machine. People had to keep distances. They had to wear masks when we weren't doing the exercise. They washed the machines down. They still shut them down, removed the entire business, and put the guys in jail. We are getting to a point now. We're getting to a point now where, as I've predicted, remember, it was in June, May or June, I predicted that August would be where things started to ramp up, where we would start to see a lot more chaos, and it would only get worse through November. I'm not wrong. That's happening. I didn't predict this, but I saw it coming, that law enforcement would be used more and more to do unethical things by unethical leftist politicians. And it's local politicians, folks. Everybody's focused on Nancy Pelosi, who is death walking, and all these other leftists in Washington, D.C., and these rhinos on the right in Washington, D.C. But as I've said over and over again, it's the local politicians, the state politicians. They're the ones who are going to cripple you. They're the ones. And that's what you have to watch out for. That is where the stand is going to have to happen. Now, real quick, I want to tell you, and then I'm going to close it out, okay? Because I got to get back on the road, heading out to Phoenix. I want to make sure that you go get my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. I've been pushing this out, and I want it right now of all times, okay? All this stuff I've been talking about. Why am I able to predict and look at a lot of these things and understand it? It's because I have an understanding of the attacker-defender mindset. I understand, having been a SEAL, an offensive attacker, I know how to look and pick out the vulnerabilities of I would say my enemy, but definitely so that you can understand, it doesn't have to be my enemy. It's the target. That's the way you need to think about this. As a SEAL, whatever our target was that we were given, we would study them. We would understand what is the critical asset that we need to get. What is the critical time that asset is most vulnerable? What place, what area is it most vulnerable? Why do we want to attack that? What is that going to give us? And how are we going to carry it out to get what we need, that desired effect on that critical asset? This is how you look at yourself. Once you realize it's not rocket science, that you can look at yourself, because as an attacker, I have to figure out what you know in order to attack you the best, to get what I want. And you can actually use your knowledge to look at yourself from the attacker's point of view. That's what Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, that's what it does. It shows you how to look at yourself, your life, your business, your city, everything. You can turn around and look at it from the attacker's point of view. Once you realize that and you get that knowledge, you can flip that switch much faster and then go to the defensive side using that understanding and that knowledge you've gained to build better defenses, better awareness, plans of action when you can't avoid it. So I want you to realize that you can actually predict where an attack will happen to you. Now, it doesn't just mean a physical attack. Look at the way politicians lie to you. Look at the way these riots are occurring and they're destroying the city and putting fear and intimidation by using violence and destruction. That's terrorism. How do you defend against that? The first thing you have to do is look at yourself and your city from their perspective. Why would they want to do it? Who would want to do it? Where, when, and how could it be done? If you go out to eat somewhere in one of these cities, you should have a backpack with you filled with some black clothing, a black hoodie, a black mask, so you can put that on and just walk right out if you have to. This is the way you're going to have to think on a local level and a political level. Do it. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and we're out of here.